Hey there, Drowsy Historian here. Tonight you're not a shrine maiden, a courtesan, or some sword-wielding heroine lifted from a folk tale by men who needed something to fantasize about. You are far more common and far less fortunate. You're a woman in Tokugawa, Japan, born into a life that does not want you, trained to serve a household that does not thank you, and destined to die in quiet, unrewarded obedience. Not a tragic figure, not a romantic one, just another footnote in a scroll no one will bother to read. Before you fold yourself into the familiar posture of submission, back straight, hands folded, voice lowered, do me one small favour. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. I'm always curious to see who's drifting off to sleep while contemplating the grim mechanics of historical gender roles. If you'd like early access to more of these slow descents into forgotten lives, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. But for now, lie back, get comfortable, let's begin. You are born in a modest wooden house on the outskirts of a small provincial town in Edo-era Japan. The tatami mats beneath your mother are stained with effort. The walls, made of paper and wood, do little to muffle the sharp sounds of labour, but no one complains. They expect it to be loud, they expect it to be painful, and they expect it to end in disappointment. When you finally arrive squalling and slick with blood, no one celebrates. Your mother does not smile. The midwife, older and more callous than the beams holding up the roof, merely sighs. Another girl. She ties off the cord with practiced indifference and mutters a sutra under her breath, not to bless you, but to ward off the misfortune of too many mouths and too few sons. You are not named, not yet. That would be presumptuous. Infant mortality is high, and sentiment is expensive. It is considered unwise to invest in something so likely to disappear. For now, you are simply the baby. Or, when your mother's voice is softest, the little one. If you live past the first few weeks, perhaps they'll give you a name, something plain, something forgettable, something that doesn't tempt the gods to notice you. They won't choose anything grand. That would be arrogant, and arrogance is the domain of men. You're expected to survive quietly or die without fuss. Either outcome is acceptable. What they fear is a girl who draws too much attention to herself. From the moment of your first breath, the terms of your existence are non-negotiable. You are female in a time and place that has little use for women beyond reproduction and ritual. The world of the Tokugawa shogunate is one of rigid structure and endless repetition. Everyone has a place, everyone has a duty. And yours, decided long before your birth, and reinforced with each passing year, is to support others, serve quietly, and never demand. You will not inherit land, you will not own property, you will not speak unless spoken to. If you are clever, hide it. If you are beautiful, guard it. If you are neither, pray for good manners and a strong back. Your father does not look at you with affection. He looks at you the way one regards a field that needs tilling, with a sense of grim obligation. You are not his heir. You are not his pride. You are, if all goes well, a future asset to be exchanged for social stability. If all goes poorly, you are a liability he will have to feed, clothe, and eventually apologize for. Your mother, for her part, is too exhausted to offer much warmth. She has lived this life before you, and she knows how it ends. There is no room for softness. She corrects your posture before you can walk. She hushes your cries before you can speak. She teaches you not to want too much, which is to say, anything at all. You are weaned early, not because you're ready, but because there is another child coming, and your mother must prepare. At night, when the fire is low and the house stills into silence, you sometimes hear your parents whispering. The words are muffled, but you catch enough. Another girl, and they may not be able to afford rice. Another girl, and the neighbours will talk. Another girl, and perhaps the gods are punishing them. You do not understand what you've done wrong. You are 2. You learn to flinch before you understand. The word for fear. By the age of 3, you are already being taught to bow. Not the shallow nod of the merchant class, but the deep, proper, servile fold that presses your forehead toward the floor and forces your spine into early submission. You learn to keep your eyes down. You learn to walk without stomping. You learn to speak only when prompted, and even then with the tone of someone apologizing for existing. You are praised when you're quiet. You are scolded when you are curious. Curiosity is unbecoming in a girl. It suggests you believe there might be more to life than service, and that, of course, is dangerous. Your toys are carved from scrap wood if you're lucky. You may be given a cloth doll with no face, not because they forgot, but because your own face is not supposed to matter either. You are meant to think of others first. Your play is practice for future burdens, carrying water, folding cloth, grinding grain. If you mimic your mother, you are praised. If you mimic your father, you are corrected. Your body is already being shaped, quite literally, for confinement. Sit straighter, smile less. Do not let your sleeves drag. Do not let your hair fall forward. You are not to be admired. You are to be tolerable. At 4, you begin helping with the smaller chores, gathering kindling, folding robes, learning the names of things you are allowed to touch, and memorizing the things you are not. You are not to touch your father's sandals. You are not to enter the front room when guests are present. You are not to raise your voice, even when in pain. And if you bleed, from a scraped knee, from a burn, from anything, you are to clean it yourself. Blood is your problem. Always will be. By 5, you have begun to understand the most important rule of your existence. Presence is acceptable only in silence. You are a background character in a play about men. Your job is not to act, but to remain still between scenes. You are praised for being good, and good means invisible, undemanding, obedient. You bow when spoken to. You apologize for interrupting, even when you haven't. You kneel before you know why, and when you smile, you make sure it's small, deferential, and above all, brief. No one tells you that you're loved. That is not the custom. Affection is seen as indulgent. Instead, you are told that you're fortunate. Fortunate to have been born into a family with food, with structure, with a plan for you. You do not feel fortunate. You feel cold in winter and hungry before dinner and tired from kneeling for too long. But you smile and bow because that is what good daughters do. And to be a bad daughter is to bring shame. And to bring shame is to be punished, not just by your family, but by the entire village. Women are not judged individually. You carry the honour of the household in your posture, in your silence, in your restraint. Sometimes you catch glimpses of what lies ahead. A neighbour girl, not much older than you, being fitted for a wedding robe. A woman down the road, face bruised and covered, muttering apologies to no one in particular. A grandmother bent nearly double with age, shuffling barefoot to fetch water no one else will carry. You ask your mother if they are happy. She tells you not to ask questions you don't want answers to. You stop asking. You begin to understand that your life is not meant to be chosen. It is meant to be endured. The path ahead is as straight and narrow as the wooden beams that frame your home. Inflexible, creaking in the wind, but never moving. Your thoughts are yours, but only privately. Your words are rationed. Your desires are irrelevant. You are not being raised. You are being prepared. And what you are being prepared for is obedience. By now, you know how to enter a room without making a sound. You know how to pour tea without spilling a drop. You know that the right kind of laughter is soft and brief, and never your own. You have mastered the art of existing without intruding. And no one applauds you for this. They simply stop correcting you. That is your reward, the absence of punishment. And so you have become what they wanted, not a child, not yet a person, but a shape moulded by expectation. You bow instinctively. You kneel before you're asked. You have learned with terrible efficiency that quiet girls live longer. You are 6 years old. Your world is small, orderly, and filled with tasks no one explains, but everyone expects you to know. Each day begins with chores, folding futons, sweeping dust from corners that never seem to stay clean, fetching water with a bucket almost as large as your torso. You move in the shadow of your mother, copying her steps with the anxious precision of a child who has already learned that mistakes are corrected in silence, not kindness. Your hands are still soft, but they no longer belong to you. They belong to the household, to duty, to the unspoken agreement that you will serve without asking why. Instruction is constant, though rarely formal. You are not sent to temple school like your brother. Your education happens in passing remarks, in gentle slaps on the wrist, in the raised eyebrow that means you've poured the tea too fast or sat with your knees too far apart. You learn to thread a needle, not because someone sits beside you patiently, but because the thread and needle are left in front of you with the clear implication that this is what good girls do. Your stitches are crooked at first. No one praises you when they improve. Praise is indulgent. Improvement is simply expected. Every lesson you receive is tied to a future that feels both impossibly distant and oppressively near. You are taught how to arrange pickled vegetables in a lacquered dish, not because presentation is beautiful, but because your future mother-in-law will expect precision. You learn how to fold your hands in your lap when seated, how to bow low enough to imply humility, but not so low that it seems mocking, how to remove your sandals without making a sound. The margins for error are narrow, but no one ever outlines them clearly. You're meant to intuit them. That's part of being a girl. You must always know what is wanted before it is said. You are not permitted to be loud. Even your laughter must be measured. You learn to giggle behind your sleeve, the way your mother does when guests are present, not because anything is funny, but because polite laughter is part of the performance. You are told that a quiet girl is a respectable girl, and a respectable girl becomes a respectable wife. You are not told what happens to those who fail to master this art. But you hear things. The neighbour's daughter, who was too bold and had to be sent to live with relatives. The cousin who embarrassed her family by speaking her mind in front of a visiting elder. Their names are rarely mentioned aloud. Their fates hang in the air like smoke from a damp fire. At night, your body aches in small persistent ways, from kneeling too long, from sitting too straight, from clenching your shoulders in constant effort. You're not permitted to stretch out fully when others are nearby. Slouching is lazy. Lying down is unseemly. Even in rest, you must carry the posture of obedience. Your futon is thin, the air cold, but you do not complain. Complaints are seen as ingratitude, and gratitude is the minimum requirement for being allowed to exist. You fold your hands under your head and stare at the ceiling beams, counting the lines in the wood until your eyes blur. The home is not a place of comfort. It is a place of surveillance and performance. Every movement is watched, not maliciously, but with the deeply internalized scrutiny of a society obsessed with hierarchy and order. Your mother corrects your tone of voice when speaking to elders. Your father does not speak to you directly unless something is wrong. When your brother makes a mistake, it is met with laughter and correction. When you err, it is met with silence and shame. You are not punished cruelly. That would almost be a kindness. Instead, you are punished with the disappointed glance, the long pause, the gentle but crushing reminder that you are not meeting expectations you were never allowed to question. Religion weaves through your daily routine, like the wind through the paper walls, not always visible, but always present. You light incense at the family altar and bow to ancestors whose names you memorize without stories. Your prayers are soft, formulaic, and focused not on personal hope, but on family harmony. You are taught that a woman's virtue contributes to the household's karmic balance. If your behaviour is poor, your family may suffer misfortune. This idea nestles in your mind like a stone at the bottom of a well. When your mother has a coughing fit, or a chicken dies unexpectedly, you wonder if it's your fault for thinking ungrateful thoughts. You promise yourself to be better. Your days blend together with the dull rhythm of tasks and whispers. You embroider cloth with patterns you do not choose, stir rice with movements you've memorized, polish the floor with rags until your knees ache. Occasionally there are festivals, brief bursts of colour and sound, but even then your role is constrained. You wear your best kimono, stand very still, and smile on cue. You're not allowed to run, to play, to laugh too loudly. The boys can shout and jostle and wave sparklers. You must look like a doll, placed precisely and admired at a distance. By the time you're 8, your face has settled into something practiced. You no longer fidget. You know when to lower your gaze. You no longer ask questions in front of adults. Curiosity is dangerous. It suggests dissatisfaction, and dissatisfaction implies rebellion, which is unthinkable. Instead, you internalize the rituals. You memorize the household calendar. You anticipate your mother's moods and adjust your behavior accordingly. You become, in essence, a silent extension of the home, part child, part servant, part living emblem of your family's reputation. The concept of filial piety is no longer abstract. It is the guiding principle of your every thought. Your father is the head of the household. His will is law. Your mother is his subordinate and your example. Your brother is above you by virtue of birth alone. Your job is to make his life easier, to defer to his opinion, to smile when he corrects you, even when he is wrong. You are not to speak ill of your family, even in your thoughts. If your brother spills something and blames you, you apologize. If your father forgets your name for a moment and calls you by your cousins, you do not correct him. You bow instead. There is no space in your world for selfhood, not because anyone took it from you, but because you were never taught to have it. The very idea of having wants, of having dreams, is treated as vanity. You are not raised to ask what you will become. You are raised to become what is asked of you. Every story you hear, every parable from the local priest, every cautionary tale whispered by aunties in the kitchen reinforces the same idea. A good woman sacrifices. A good woman serves. A good woman knows her place and stays in it. By 10, your fingers are calloused from the loom. Your handwriting is tidy, if not artistic. You're permitted to copy scriptures and family poems, but never to write your own. Originality is discouraged. You are trusted to cook small meals, unsupervised. You are entrusted with younger siblings. You are not trusted with freedom, and you accept this because you must. Because to question your lot is to question your family, and to question your family is to shame them. And shame in this world is more dangerous than illness or hunger or grief. The years pass with mechanical efficiency. You learn to control your expression, even when frightened. You learn to suppress hunger during lean seasons without complaint. You learn to walk with knees slightly bent to avoid the sound of your feet. Your voice is soft, your movements practiced, your mind disciplined not to wander too far. The boys in your village play at swordsmanship, dream of becoming samurai or merchants or monks. You dream of not embarrassing your parents. And then one morning, your mother pulls you aside. Her voice is quiet, her hands are firm. She explains what will happen to your body in the coming months. Not with warmth, but with obligation. You are 11. The word marriage is used without irony. You nod because you know you're supposed to, but something sharp lodges in your chest. You are no longer just a daughter. You are now a future wife, a potential mother, a piece in a long familial strategy. You do not know what love is. You barely understand your own reflection, but you understand the weight in your mother's eyes, the caution in her tone, The way she smooths your robe with trembling fingers and does not meet your gaze, and you understand, with the heavy certainty of a child who has learned to read silence, that your life is no longer yours. Not that it ever was. Time passes. You're 13 now. Your father has arranged a marriage. This is not a surprise. You've known for some time that your future would not be yours to choose, and the growing hush around your name during family gatherings made it obvious long before anyone sat you down. No one asks whether you're ready. No one asks whether you want this. What you want is irrelevant. You're not being paired with a partner. You're being exchanged, like silks, like rice, like favours between men who wish to cement alliances with something more durable than words. You learn about your future husband in fragments. He is older, of course. That's expected. He is not handsome, but he is respectable, which is considered a far more useful trait. He comes from a family slightly above yours in status, which means you're marrying up, a feat your parents accept with quiet pride, as if your very femaleness has finally managed to do something worthwhile. You do not meet him before the wedding. You see him once from a distance when his family visits to discuss the finer points of your transfer. He does not look at you. He looks at your father. That too is expected. The negotiations are not romantic. They are meticulous, practical, and conducted entirely by men. Your dowry is weighed not by affection, but by inventory. Bolts of cloth, lacquerware, household items, the occasional piece of inherited jewellery, if you're lucky. In return, your husband's family offers gifts of similar formality, sake barrels, ceremonial robes, perhaps a family crest stamped on something forgettable. You are not consulted. Your value is determined in rice measures and social mobility. The only thing expected from you is agreement, and even that is implied, not requested. Your silence is taken as consent. You do not plan your wedding. You're told what to wear, how to walk, when to bow, and how deeply. Your mother instructs you in the art of bridal weeping. Tears must fall but not smear the makeup. Your sobs must be audible enough to signal respect for your departure, but not so loud that they disrupt the ceremony. Too little emotion implies you're cold. Too much suggests you're ungrateful. It is, like everything else in your life, a performance of balance, and the consequences for tipping too far in either direction are social, subtle, and permanent. The ceremony itself is a blur of ritual and restraint. You kneel for hours while incense curls through the air, and elders chant blessings you're expected to absorb without comprehension. Your back aches, your knees throb, and your hands remain folded in your lap like a well-trained doll. Your wedding kimono is stiff and ornate, layered so heavily that your shoulders slump under its weight. It is beautiful, in the same way a cage might be beautiful, carefully constructed, deeply symbolic, and entirely inescapable. The concept of love is never mentioned. That would be vulgar. Love is for poets and actors, not for proper wives. What matters is duty, and you are reminded of it with every whispered instruction, every ceremonial nod, every stern glance from your father across the tatami mat. You are a vessel for alliance, a bridge between families, a womb in waiting wrapped in decorative brocade. You are not expected to enjoy any of this. You are expected to endure it with grace. As you prepare to leave your childhood home, the only space where your silence was at least familiar, you are given parting advice from every corner of your household. Your father tells you to honour your husband and bear him sons. Your mother reminds you to obey without hesitation. Your brother, who once teased you when no one was looking, avoids your gaze entirely. The maid who helped raise you tells you softly to never answer back, no matter how unfair something seems. She squeezes your hand once, then walks away. No one cries in front of you. That would suggest attachment. And attachment, in a transaction like this, is unseemly. You've been taught the 3 obediences since before you knew what they meant. Obedience to your father as a girl, obedience to your husband as a wife, obedience to your son as a widow. This is the sacred progression of your existence, a tidy lineage of submission. There is no stage in life when you're expected to lead, to choose, or to exist independently. Autonomy is not a virtue for women in this era. It is a warning sign, a flaw to be corrected before it causes embarrassment. You have memorized your role so well that you could recite it in your sleep. You obey, not because you're afraid, but because disobedience is simply not part of your vocabulary. The journey to your husband's home is ceremonial and long. You ride in a palanquin for part of it, your feet tucked beneath you, your posture agonizingly rigid. Attendants walk beside you, but no one speaks unless spoken to. You're not allowed to look out the window, slats too long, lest someone think you are nosy or ungrateful. You try to catch glimpses of the road anyway, bits of countryside, the occasional rice paddy, farmers who do not look up. You envy their freedom even as they labour. At least they know where they belong. When you finally arrive, you're greeted with formal bows, polite phrases, and the unmistakable undercurrent of assessment. Your new in-laws study you as one might examine a piece of furniture, checking for flaws, estimating durability. You bow in all the correct directions, present your ceremonial offerings, and thank them for accepting you. The phrase tastes strange in your mouth, but you say it anyway. Gratitude is mandatory. You're expected to be grateful for being received. Your new home is unfamiliar, but not surprising. The layout is different, the faces are strange, but the expectations are identical. You are shown your quarters, a modest room with thin walls, and a view of the garden you're unlikely to enjoy. You will spend your days managing the household, your nights attending to your husband, and your entire life ensuring that nothing you do ever reflects poorly on the family name. Your duties are explained to you with clinical clarity. You nod after every instruction. No one asks if you have questions. Your husband, when you finally meet him alone, is quiet and formal. He does not smile. He does not need to. You are not here for affection. You are here to perform a function. You bow as you were taught. You speak only when addressed. You lower your eyes and wait for further instruction. You are not nervous. That would imply you expected anything different. You are simply tired. Tired from the kneeling. Tired from the ceremony. Tired from the burden of becoming something new, while pretending it was always inevitable. Later that night, as you kneel to undress with ceremonial care, your knees ache with a dull, persistent throb. The soles of your feet burn from the long day, and your spine feels as though it has been compressed into something smaller than you remember. You fold your robe, extinguish the lantern, and lie down on bedding that still smells faintly of someone else's daughter. You are not sad. That would be too indulgent. You're not angry. That would be too dangerous. You're simply resigned. You think for a moment of your mother. You wonder if she felt the same way, if her feet ached the same way, if she looked at her husband that first night and thought, not of romance, but of distance, the enormous yawning gap between one life and another. You imagine she did, but she never said so. And now, neither will you. Your feet, still raw from ceremonial kneeling, throb beneath the thin blanket. Your eyes do not close easily. Sleep will come later, if it comes at all. But for now, you lie perfectly still, careful not to make a sound. You are someone else's problem now. The house is not large, but it is layered in invisible borders. This room is for men. That one is for storage. You may clean here, but not sit there. You may light the fire, but not speak during meals unless spoken to. Your own room is at the far end of the corridor near the kitchen, with a sliding door that creaks too loudly, no matter how carefully you move it. The futon is modest. The window faces the garden, though you're warned not to linger by it. Too much staring implies idleness. And idleness is unbecoming in a new wife. Your husband does not give you these instructions. His mother does. She's not cruel, she is efficient. Her eyes flick over you like a ledger being balanced. This one, thin but healthy, quiet at least, posture acceptable. She speaks in clipped sentences and pauses just long enough after each one to make it clear she expects obedience, not response. You bow after every instruction. You have forgotten how to do anything else. You're expected to rise before dawn and sleep only after the household has settled. You light the morning fire with numb fingers and sweep the courtyard before the birds begin to sing. The kitchen smells of smoke and vinegar. You prepare breakfast with ingredients you've barely seen before and serve it with the trembling hands of someone who knows that spilling soy sauce on a lacquer tray could mean days of quiet disapproval. No one praises you when the rice is cooked just right. No one comments when it isn't. The silence is its own form of review. Each task blends into the next. After the morning meal, you scrub linens until your knuckles chap, then hang them to dry in neat rows that must not overlap. You press your knees into rough tatami as you scrub the floorboards with a cloth so worn it frays in your hands. You are instructed not to sigh too loudly while doing this. It sounds ungrateful. You are not ungrateful. You are fortunate, they remind you. You have a husband, you have a roof, you have rice most days. What more could a woman possibly want? The answer is nothing. You are not meant to want. Wanting implies lack. Lack implies need. And needs, especially in women, are an inconvenience. So you fold your wants into smaller and smaller shapes until they disappear. You do not look at the plum tree blooming in the garden. You do not ask for more miso in your soup. You do not linger too long when passing the temple gate, even though the chanting soothes you. You become a narrow version of yourself, compressed neatly into someone else's schedule. Your husband is neither kind nor cruel. He is simply absent, emotionally, physically, conversationally. He eats what you cook, sleeps beside you in the same room, and leaves in the morning with barely a word. You do not ask him where he goes. You do not ask him when he'll return. You do not ask him anything, because your role is not to know. Your role is to wait. You learn that he prefers his tea lukewarm, not hot, that he dislikes daikon, but will not say so aloud, that he grinds his teeth in his sleep, and sometimes mutters the name of a woman you've never met. You do not ask who she is. You do not cry when he rolls away from you at night. You lie very still, your eyes open, tracing the knots in the ceiling beams. Your mother-in-law checks your work. Every morning, she inspects the washcloths, tests the rice, comments on the angle of the incense stand. Her words are polite, but never warm. Praise is rare. Most of what you receive are corrections disguised as compliments. You're learning quickly, but remember to trim the wicks before lighting them, or good effort on the pickles, though next time, use more salt. You bow. You bow again. You bow until your spine aches and your neck feels permanently tilted toward the ground. You are never alone. Even in your own quarters, the walls are paper thin, and every sound passes through them like smoke. You hear footsteps, hushed voices, the squeak of sandals, the clatter of bowls. Privacy is a concept reserved for men. You undress behind a screen. You bathe in silence, eyes averted, surrounded by women who do not speak unless absolutely necessary. You sleep in a room that is yours only by designation, not by comfort. If you make a mistake, burn the rice, chip a dish, step too loudly, it is not shouted at you. That would be direct. Instead, the household grows colder in ways that are impossible to prove. The soup bowls are passed to your last. The conversation never quite includes your name. Your chores double for a day or two, and no one tells you why. You apologize constantly, even when you don't know what you've done. Especially then. You have no money of your own, no possessions that aren't technically part of the household. The robe you wear belongs to your husband's family. The comb in your hair was given by your mother-in-law. If your husband chose to divorce you, and he could for any reason at all, you would leave with nothing. A small bundle, perhaps. A few parting words if he was feeling generous. But there is no legal recourse. You are not a citizen, you are an appendage. And if he were to strike you, or worse, there would be no help. The law does not protect you. The temple priests advise patience. Your family would advise endurance. To return to your parents would be a disgrace, a failure of your primary purpose. You were not raised to seek justice. You were raised to keep the peace. You fold your bruises beneath your robe, like they are secrets that belong to the household, not to you. Some days your hands shake from exhaustion. You hide them beneath your sleeves. Some nights your stomach cramps from stress or hunger, or both. You do not speak of it. You sip hot water and pretend it helps. You focus on breathing slowly. You focus on doing each task perfectly. You focus on not being noticed unless the attention is good. You begin to disappear in increments. Your voice grows quieter, your footsteps lighter, your opinions vanish entirely. You stop humming under your breath. You stop imagining other lives. You stop remembering what you looked like before the marriage. When you catch your reflection in the lacquered surface of a serving tray, you almost don't recognize yourself. The girl with the ink-stained fingers and dreams of being praised for her embroidery is gone. What remains is efficient, quiet, and forgettable, exactly as you're supposed to be. Even your body no longer feels like your own. It is watched, measured, discussed in hushed tones by women who inquire about your monthly cycle, your appetite, the fullness of your cheeks. Not for concern, for timing, for fertility. Your purpose has shifted again. You are now expected to produce an heir, ideally male, of course. Your body is not yours, not his, not even theirs. It is a vessel, a garden to be tended, not admired. And so each day you rise before the sun. You cook, scrub, bow, and serve. You exist under the careful surveillance of a house that will never truly accept you, in a role that offers no reward beyond survival. You speak less with each passing week. You feel less. You hope less. And still, you smile on command. Because that is what good wives do. Your body, once your own in a vague, girlish way, now feels foreign. Not quite borrowed, not quite stolen, just occupied. A temporary holding space for a future that has already been decided. A future you did not choose. A future that will not ask your permission. One night, your husband returns to your futon, but he is not alone. He never is. The smell of sake clings to his breath, mingled with incense, cosmetics, and something floral you can't quite place. He does not speak when he lies beside you. He does not touch you right away. You have learned by now that the delay is not consideration, it's calculation. A moment to settle, to decide whether you're still useful tonight, or if sleep will win out. You keep your eyes closed, your breathing steady, your body still. You know better than to initiate. You also know better than to deny. Sex is not pleasure. It is not intimacy. It is obligation shaped by rules no one has written down, but everyone seems to know. You were never told what to expect, only what to endure. You are not supposed to feel anything. Wanting is vulgar. Enjoyment is dangerous. You are meant to lie quietly, respond politely, and ensure the bedding stays neat. If you flinch, you are reprimanded. If you're too passive, you are scolded. There is no correct response, only a narrow window of tolerable behaviour. You aim for it with the precision of someone defusing a bomb. Your husband does not hurt you, not deliberately, but his touch is a kind of absence, mechanical, uninterested, practiced. He does not look at you when he undresses. He does not ask if you're comfortable. He does not ask anything. You are a duty he performs when it suits him, a space to occupy until sleep takes him. When he finishes, he turns away. When he does not finish, he turns away. Either way, you lie there, breathing shallowly, willing your mind to be somewhere else. You are never taught the language of your own body. There are no words for desire in the vocabulary they give you. There are only euphemisms and warnings, things not to do, things not to feel, things not to say. You are taught to be modest, which in practice means invisible. You are taught to be pure, which in practice means silent. You are told that your virtue is your family's honour, your husband's reputation, your child's future. Your body, then, is a container for other people's expectations, and your role is to ensure it never leaks. Female adultery is a crime, not a scandal. A crime. The punishment is execution, strangulation, sometimes drowning, rarely swift. A woman caught in adultery brings shame to her husband, and the law protects his right to remove that shame with fatal efficiency. The man she is caught with may be punished too, but never as severely. Men, after all, are not bound by the same rules. Their passions are considered natural. Yours are considered a threat. Your husband's infidelities are never spoken aloud, but they hover in the air like perfume after a guest has gone. You know the signs, the unfamiliar scent, the new comb, the unexplained absence. Once you saw a smear of lipstick on his sleeve, too red to be yours. You said nothing. You are not allowed to say anything. If you accuse, you shame him. If you shame him, you disgrace the household. If you disgrace the household, you risk everything, your place, your child, your life. So you lower your eyes and wash the sleeve yourself. Everyone knows. That is the quiet agreement. The women know their husbands stray. The mothers know their sons have mistresses. The neighbours know which men disappear on festival nights and which women return with gifts they cannot afford. No one says anything. They smile, pour tea, exchange pleasantries. The only person punished is the one foolish enough to name what's happening. Sometimes he disappears for a night or two. When he returns, he's relaxed in a way he never is with you. He hums under his breath. He eats slowly, with satisfaction. He sleeps deeply. You pretend not to notice. You serve the tea as usual, clear the dishes as usual, press his robes as usual, but something inside you shrinks a little more each time. Not from jealousy, that would require hope, from erosion, from the quiet understanding that you are not enough, and never were, and never will be. You hear about the geisha from other women. They speak of them with a complicated mixture of resentment and admiration. Geisha are refined, beautiful, trained in the arts. They play music, recite poetry, pour drinks with elegance. Men seek them out, not just for their company, but for the illusion of being seen, heard, respected. You are not allowed to be any of those things. If you were to sing in public, they would call you inappropriate. If you were to dress too well, they would call you vain. If you were to flirt, they would call you unfaithful. Your husband seeks grace in other women and punishes it at home. You do not hate the geisha. You envy their agency, even if it is only performative. They are trained, educated, admired. You are trained to endure, not to charm, to clean, not to sing, to kneel, not to speak. You wonder if any of them envy you in return. Your legal status, your child, your household position. But then you remember that your legal status grants you no protection. Your child is considered half his, and your position is ornamental at best. You are not a wife, you are a placeholder. There are rules for everything, and all of them are designed to constrain you. You are not allowed to refuse intimacy, even when your body aches or your mind recoils. You are not allowed to express frustration, even when he stumbles in smelling of sake and another woman's powder. You are not allowed to weep loudly, even when you feel yourself unraveling. Dignity, they say, is suffering in silence. When your husband is finished, he rises without a word. He does not thank you. He does not touch your cheek, or brush your hair aside, or say good night. He simply leaves the room, or turns his back, or occasionally falls asleep beside you like a stone dropped into a stream. You clean yourself with a damp cloth, you fold the bedding, you light a stick of incense and place it in the holder. You do not cry. You learned not to cry a long time ago. Sometimes you catch yourself imagining escape, a life where your body belongs to you, where touch means affection, where pleasure is not punishable. But the thought is gone as quickly as it comes. There is nowhere to go. No money, no rights, no one waiting to receive you. You are a married woman in Tokugawa, Japan. That is not a title. It is a sentence. You do not speak of these things. Who would listen? Your mother-in-law would tell you to be grateful. Your own mother would tell you it is normal. The priest would remind you of karma, of past sins being cleansed through suffering. Your friends, if you still had any, would lower their voices and change the subject. Everyone is enduring. That is what women do. And so, you lie awake, staring at the ceiling. The paper walls flutter slightly in the breeze. A distant bell rings from the temple. The smell of your husband's perfume lingers in the bedding. You close your eyes not to sleep but to disappear. You are not angry. That would be hope. You are tired. You do not confide in anyone. You clean, you cook, you bow, and you endure. And when your thoughts begin to crowd too closely, when bitterness pricks at the edges of your stillness, you do the only thing you're allowed to do. You light incense, kneel, and pray. You don't ask for anything. You don't expect to be heard. That's not what prayer is for. It is not a conversation. It is a performance, part of the ritual rhythm of your life. Another task to be done correctly, quietly, and without making a spectacle of yourself. The scent rises in thin spirals, curling toward the cracked beams overhead. You keep your hands pressed together and your eyes downcast, not in reverence, but in resignation. You are not seeking comfort. You are paying your dues. You have been taught that this is the proper order of things, that women must serve in silence, suffer with grace, and pass through this life as unobtrusively as possible. Religion does not challenge this belief. It reinforces it with divine authority. You are told that your birth as a woman is the result of karma, the cosmic consequence of misdeeds in a past life. You are suffering now because you failed before, and if you fail again, you will return as something lower still, perhaps a beast, perhaps nothing at all. Buddhism and Confucianism shape every corner of your daily life, their teachings embedded in the rituals and customs that govern you. From Buddhism, you learn that desire is the root of suffering, so you must learn to want nothing. From Confucianism, you learn that hierarchy is the root of order, so you must stay in your place. You are expected to embody the virtues of the obedient daughter, the submissive wife, the self-sacrificing mother. These are not simply social roles, they are sacred obligations. To resist them is to defy not only your family, but the natural law itself. You are told that your suffering is a form of purification. Every act of patience, every swallowed word, every silent humiliation brings you closer to enlightenment. Though that enlightenment is always just out of reach, you will not achieve it in this life. Women rarely do. Your body is considered too impure, your mind too fickle, your nature too indulgent. You can support your husband's path, raise sons who will one day become monks or scholars, tend to the family altar with devotion. But your own liberation is deferred, postponed indefinitely, promised after death, if you're lucky, and if you've endured enough. The stories you hear are always about men, enlightened sages, righteous lords, filial sons who sacrifice themselves to honour their parents. Women appear only as background figures, supportive wives, grieving mothers, dutiful daughters who die quietly. Their virtue lies in disappearance. They are remembered only when their silence served a purpose. No one tells stories about women who spoke out, or left, or refused. If such women ever existed, they were edited out of history long before it reached your ears. You are taught to bow before the ancestors, to chant sutras without question, to maintain the household altar as meticulously as you maintain your own body. The ashes must be swept, the offerings must be fresh, The candles must never burn too low. If you fail in these duties, you invite misfortune, not just upon yourself, but upon your entire family. Your piety is a kind of currency, the only one you're allowed to handle. You spend it daily, hoping it will be enough to keep disaster at bay. No one explains the contradictions. You are told that your suffering is deserved, and also that you should accept it without complaint. You are told to pray for peace while being denied it. You are told that this life is a test, and the only way to pass is to never question the rules. If your husband mistreats you, it is because you earned it in a previous incarnation. If your child dies, it is because your spirit needed to learn detachment. If you feel bitterness, you're told to recite more sutras, burn more incense, kneel longer. Everything has a reason, and none of those reasons are allowed to be structural or human. They must always be your fault. You learn to pray not for change, but for endurance, not for joy, but for numbness. You do not ask the gods to deliver you from hardship. You ask them to help you survive it without bringing shame to your family. If you feel anger, you chant. If you feel sorrow, you bow. If you feel nothing at all, you light another stick of incense and pretend that means progress. The temple priest comes once a month to bless the house. He speaks softly, walks slowly, and never addresses you directly. He speaks to your husband, your father-in-law, your son if he is old enough. To you, he nods, and that is enough. You bow. He offers wisdom that reinforces your role. Women must be diligent, humble, and content with small joys. He reminds the household that a wife's devotion is the glue that holds the family together. No one asks what holds the wife together. Your mother-in-law nods approvingly during these visits. She too believes in the sacredness of submission. She wears her suffering like a badge of honor. The long years of service, the sacrifices, the silences. She tells you with something like pride that she never once raised her voice to her husband, that she gave birth 7 times, buried 3 children, and never complained. That her prayers were always for others, never for herself. She expects the same from you. She assumes you will rise to the occasion. You do not disobey. You kneel when she tells you to. You follow her lead in rituals. You tend the shrine. You repeat the words she repeated before you, but you feel no holiness, only fatigue, only repetition, only the sense that each prayer is a brick in a wall that keeps you still, silent, and small. Sometimes you look at the statues of the bodhisattvas, the serene, half-smiling figures with their hands held in perfect gestures of blessing, and wonder if they were ever hungry, if they ever burned with anger, if they ever wanted to scream into the empty hills, but the statues remain calm, unmoved, indifferent. Like the heavens they promise, beautiful from a distance, useless up close. You are told that women can gain merit by serving others, that every bowl of rice you prepare, every robe you mend, every hour you spend in silence, brings your spirit closer to rebirth in a better form. But no one tells you how many lifetimes that takes. No one tells you how much suffering is enough. The rules are deliberately vague. That way, the bar can always be raised. You light another stick of incense. The smoke stings your eyes. You kneel for the prescribed length of time. You bow 3 times, deeply, as you were taught. You whisper nothing. Nothing is what you're allowed to offer. Nothing is what you expect in return. Outside, the wind shifts and the paper walls tremble. A bell rings in the distance, the sound hollow, beautiful, and meaningless. You press your palms together and close your eyes. You imagine peace, but only for a moment. Then you return to your body. You return to the room. You return to the knowledge that your dharma is not to seek freedom, but to serve with grace. The incense burns down to a curl of ash. You bow your head, whisper nothing, and return to your chores. You do not work in the fields. That would be improper. You live in a respectable house with respectable walls, and your labour must look the part, quiet, contained, decorative. Your place is inside, not because you're idle, but because you are not allowed to sweat where others can see it. Your work must be invisible, like your thoughts, your discomfort, your name. You chop vegetables with clean hands. You fold laundry with precise corners. You sew until your fingers are raw, but your robes remain unblemished. You are exhausted, of course, but politely. Still you see them, the other women. You watch from the edge of the veranda while mending a collar, or glance up from your basket of needlework as a cart rolls by. The peasant wives in straw hats and tattered robes. They pass like shadows, hunched, bare-armed, calves splashed with mud. They haul water, bundle firewood, and carry their children on their backs, while balancing buckets in both hands. No one shields them from the sun. No one calls their work sacred. No one tells them to be graceful. They are not told to suffer beautifully, only to survive. You envy them sometimes, though you would never say it aloud. Their world is hard, yes, brutal in ways yours is not, but at least it is honest. Their exhaustion is allowed to be seen. Their labour is visible. No one expects them to pretend it is pleasure. They grunt, they sweat, they shout at their children in the street. They speak with their mouths uncovered. You, meanwhile, must cover your mouth even to yawn. And yet no one thanks them either. A peasant woman can give birth in the morning and return to work before nightfall. No priest blesses her for it. No record is made. She dies in the same silence she lived in, buried without ceremony if she dies too young, mourned by a family too poor to light incense for long. Her work feeds others, but it leaves no mark. You think sometimes about the merchant wives, the ones who pass your door, with powdered faces and sleeves, that brush the dust without ever gathering it. They are free in theory, allowed to move about, to handle money, to speak to strangers. They smile through transactions, calculate weights and measures, manage their husbands' businesses when the men are drinking or pretending to pray. But it is a narrow freedom, conditional, revocable. If they speak too boldly or dress too richly, they are labelled presumptuous. If they fail to bear sons, their ledgers and tea trays will not save them. They too are replaceable. You heard once that a merchant's daughter poisoned herself after being forced to marry an older creditor to settle her father's debts. The temple priest said it was a karmic mistake. The neighbours said it was shameful. No one said it was tragic. And then there are the samurai wives, the ones slightly above you. They host poetry gatherings, arrange flowers with meticulous flair, and write verses about plum blossoms in spring. But you know, they are also counting rice barrels behind folding screens and stitching robes long after midnight to cover the debts. Their husbands pretend don't exist. They do not speak of disgrace, but it drips from them like rain through rotting thatch. Their gardens are lovely, but their eyes are always tired. The higher a woman stands, the more elegantly she must fall. A peasant collapses in the mud and is pitied. A samurai wife falters, and the household collapses with her. You are not sure which is worse. You think of the geisha sometimes, when the incense curls the right way, or the wind brings the sound of a shamisen from some nearby room you'll never be invited into. They are not what the men pretend. They are not mystical or magical. They are practiced, trained. They smile because they must, speak poetry because it is expected, and bow more beautifully than any bride on her wedding day. They are praised for the same grace you're punished for attempting, but the difference is that they are not allowed to keep it. People admire their poise and then accuse them of corruption. Men visit them and then blame them. Women hate them and then copy them. No one saves them. If they grow old, they fade. If they become inconvenient, they are erased. They are not free, they are simply visible. All around you, women labour, in the fields, in kitchens, in shops, in silence, in song, in shame. They bend, kneel, serve and vanish, and the world calls this natural. The priests call it holy. The men call it nothing at all. Your own work is smaller, but no less consuming. You sew until your vision blurs. You prepare meals for people who forget to thank you. You iron robes that smell like women you've never met. You perform the same gestures, day after day, as if a repetition might eventually earn you peace. But peace is a luxury, and you have been told, gently, repeatedly, that luxury is not for you. You are not praised for what you do, only scolded when it is not done quickly enough. You are not seen as industrious, only competent, and competence is the minimum requirement for not being a burden. Your hands are calloused, though no one would call them working hands. Your knees ache from kneeling, though no one would call it labour. Your exhaustion is not valid, it is expected. And still, you rise early. You boil water, fold linens, prepare trays. You sweep a house that is not yours, cook for people who do not ask your opinion, and maintain a level of dignity so precise it could snap. You think of all the women you've seen, sweating in fields, calculating accounts, kneeling in gardens, and you wonder how many of them are also pretending. How many of them dream of stillness? How many of them ache where you ache? How many of them, like you, are simply waiting to be thanked for once? Not praised, not celebrated, just seen. You are pregnant. It is not joy, it is duty. There is no surprise, no flutter of hope, no whispered congratulations. Just a nod from your mother-in-law, a stiffening in your husband's posture, and the unspoken expectation that your body will now deliver something useful. The timing is acceptable. You've been married long enough to avoid suspicion, but not so long that anyone will wonder if something is wrong with you. This, they say, is as it should be. You do not feel ready. Readiness is irrelevant. You're told to take care of yourself, but not to rest too much. Laziness is unbecoming in a wife, pregnant or not. You still rise before dawn, still sweep the floor, still tend the fire with knees bent and back aching. Your stomach churns in the mornings, but you are expected to work through it. Morning sickness is not considered an illness. It is simply a minor inconvenience that you're not to mention. If you vomit, you clean it up. If you faint, you apologize. You are carrying life after all. You must be strong. For the baby, for the family, for the household's reputation. Your cravings are met with polite indifference. If there is sour plum in the house, you may be allowed a little. If there is not, you do without. There are no midnight errands, no affectionate indulgences. You're not treated delicately. You're not treated cruelly either, merely as a vessel that must be maintained. You become something between a servant and a shrine, functional, sacred, but still part of the background. The talk around you shifts. Women mention signs and the way you're carrying, the colour of your skin, the dreams you've had, and all of it is filtered through one central concern. Will it be a boy? A son would elevate your position. A son would please your husband, give your in-laws peace of mind, secure your future, and allow you to speak just a little more freely. Not much, but enough to matter. A daughter would mean disappointment, however politely disguised. Another mouth to feed, another dowry to prepare, another burden. You try not to think about it. You focus on doing everything correctly, eating the right foods, bowing to the right gods, sleeping on your left side. You are told that karma plays a role. If you have lived well, you will be rewarded with a boy. If you have failed in some unseen way, the outcome will reflect it. You try not to wonder which it will be. When the first spot of blood appears, you do not panic. You pray. You are told to pray harder. You kneel longer at the family altar, offering incense with trembling hands. You promise the ancestors that you will be better, quieter, more obedient, more grateful, if they will just let this child survive. You tell no one at first. You do not want to burden the household with worry. When the bleeding stops, you exhale so slowly, it barely qualifies as relief. The months drag on with a mixture of dread and numbness. Your body stretches beyond recognition. Your back aches constantly. Your feet swell. Your joints throb. You're told not to complain. Women have done this for centuries. This is natural. This is necessary. You begin to understand how natural can be a synonym for excruciating. There is no medical care to speak of, not in any modern sense. You are monitored by older women, midwives who have seen enough births to predict the outcome by your expression. Their hands are steady. Their words are blunt. They do not offer comfort. They offer instruction. When labour begins, it is not an event. It is a process. Long, slow, and entirely yours to bear. You are moved to a small room, away from the rest of the household. 1 or 2 women stay with you, not for company, but for necessity. You are expected to deliver in silence, or as close to it as possible. Screaming is considered vulgar. You bite down on the edge of your sleeve until your jaw cramps. The pain builds in waves. You lose track of time. You lose track of your own thoughts. There is no dignity in childbirth, only survival. You are not given medicine. You are not offered reassurance. You are told to breathe, to push, to endure. You do all three for what feels like days. Your vision blurs. The floor tilts. You are afraid, but not of dying. Dying is common. What terrifies you is the thought of surviving and being blamed for whatever goes wrong. If the child is stillborn, if the baby is weak, if you hemorrhage and ruin the tatami, it will all be your fault. You are the one who carried this child. You are the one whose body must behave properly. When the child finally comes, it is not triumph, it is exhaustion. You collapse into the bedding, drenched in sweat, soaked in blood, limbs shaking with exertion. Someone cuts the cord. Someone else wraps the baby in cloth and cleans away the mess. You're too tired to move. You lie there, eyes half open, and wait. You wait for the words. Not congratulations, not you did it, but the only thing that matters, it's a boy or it's a girl. It's a boy, the midwife says, voice even. You try to smile, you really do, but your lips barely move, and your eyes stay open only because closing them feels like giving up entirely. Someone places the child beside you. He is small, wrinkled, red-faced. He cries with remarkable strength. You envy him for it. The baby cries. You pick him up. He's warm and heavy against your chest. You hum softly, a lullaby from your own childhood, and rock him gently back and forth. He calms. You try to smile again. Your lips ache from the effort. You have done your duty. You have created life. You have survived what many women do not. And yet, you feel no triumph, only fatigue and the slow realization that your body, once foreign and neglected, is now merely a factory. Not yours, not his, just a vessel, a means to an end that did not materialize. Still you try to smile. The years pass by. You are 43 now. Your skin is no longer smooth. There are fine lines where your laughter used to be, if you ever laughed enough for that to matter. Your joints ache in ways they never did before. Your back tightens each morning with a dull, persistent stiffness. You are not old, but you're no longer young. And in this house, in this role, youth is the only currency you ever held. And now, it is slipping away like water through a cracked bowl. No one says it directly, of course. They never do. That would be impolite. But you see it in your mother-in-law's glance as she watches you kneel, slower than you used to. You hear it in your husband's tone, not cruel but flat, the way he no longer bothers to explain his absence or offer pretense. You feel it in the way your name is spoken less often, replaced by titles, Oka-san, Oba-chan, that woman. You're still here, still working, still performing your duties with the same quiet precision as always. But your presence has begun to fade from the centre of the room. The shift is subtle at first. You're asked to step back during family meetings, to let the younger women serve tea, to spend more time with the children while the adults talk. You are told it is an honour to guide the next generation, to pass on your wisdom. But no one asks for that wisdom. They simply assume you'll stay out of the way. What they mean is that you are no longer necessary, that your most useful days, your fertile years, are behind you. Your son has a wife now. She is young, quiet, efficient. She bows often and keeps her voice soft. You see yourself in her sometimes, the same bowed head, the same trembling hands, learning to serve strangers. But she does not see you, not truly. To her, you're part of the furniture, an elder to be respected, but not consulted. You move silently around her, correcting what she misses, smoothing what she forgets. You do not scold her. You are not allowed to. You simply fix things and disappear again. Your husband is distant. He has been for years, but now the distance is physical, not just emotional. He sleeps in a separate room. He eats before you do. He speaks to your son more often than to you. Sometimes you wonder if he regrets not taking a second wife, a younger woman to bear more sons, to bring vitality back into the house. But it's too late now. You are the wife he kept, not by affection, by inertia. You try to remain useful. You care for your grandchildren when no one else wants to. You clean rooms that no one notices. You tend the shrine with greater devotion than you ever did in your youth, as if perhaps the gods might reward consistency. But usefulness is a slippery thing. It does not preserve status. It does not earn praise. It only delays irrelevance. And every day, you feel that delay shortening. You watch as men your age remarry, comfortably, proudly. No one questions it. A 45-year-old husband with a 20-year-old bride is seen as dignified, even generous. He is providing for her. He is reviving his household. No one speaks of vanity or desperation. But if a woman of 43 were to remarry, she would be pitied, whispered about. She must be poor. She must be barren. She must be foolish to imagine someone would want her. If your husband were to die, the expectations are clear. You would mourn quietly. You would not remarry. That would be dishonourable. You would return to your father's house, if they would have you. But your father is old now. Your brothers have their own households. There may be no room for you, and even if there is, you would not be welcomed. You would be another mouth, another chore, another reminder that a woman without a husband is a woman without a place. Widowhood is not freedom, it is erasure. The moment you're no longer a wife, you become a shadow in someone else's house. You serve your daughter-in-law. You wait for the day she begins to sigh when you enter a room. The day she suggests, gently, of course, that your hands are too weak to carry the tea tray. You accept it. You nod. You shrink a little further. Your reflection startles you now. The creases around your mouth have deepened. Your eyebrows are thinner. Your eyes no longer hold the tight, alert fear of youth. Now they simply look tired. You wrap your obi tighter to hide the curve of your waist. You apply powder to your face, not to beautify it, but to soften its presence. You have learned that being less visible often feels safer. Sometimes you think back to your girlhood, not fondly, not nostalgically, but analytically. You remember the things you thought would matter, how you worried about your wedding kimono, how you practiced bowing in the mirror, how you tried to smile the correct amount on the day you were given away. You want to shake that younger self by the shoulders. Tell her it wouldn't matter, that no amount of elegance would protect her from this slow dissolution. There is no ritual for becoming invisible. It just happens. One day, you notice the servants no longer bow as deeply. The neighbours stop asking after your health. When guests come, you are asked to sit in the corner room. Not because you're unwelcome, because you're unnecessary. You become the family caretaker, not the honoured matriarch, but the quiet nursemaid. You wake with the children. You feed them, bathe them, rock them to sleep. Your hands smell of rice and sweat and old cloth. You hush them when they cry. You tell them stories in a voice softened by habit, not joy. They cling to you, not out of love, but out of need. And you cling back because at least someone still needs you. No one asks what you want. No one ever has. But now, they no longer even pretend. You are asked for your help, never your opinion. Your name is spoken only when something needs doing. You are praised only when you do not interfere. The house remains orderly. The meals arrive on time. The children are clean. You keep everything moving, and yet you are the one fading. You know how this ends. You have seen it before, in your aunts, your neighbours, your own mother. A slow retreat from relevance, fewer words spoken, fewer doors opened for you. Eventually, just a quiet corner, a cup of tea placed beside you, and long hours of silence. But you're not angry. Not really. Anger requires expectation. You gave up expectations years ago. Now there is only the rhythm of service, the comfort of routine, the sound of a child's breath as they sleep against your shoulder. The warmth of a blanket you folded yourself, the slow, measured act of being small enough not to disturb anything. You whisper bedtime stories to your grandson. They are the only words you speak all day. The years seem to fly by. You are dying now, not dramatically, quietly, as expected. There is no sudden illness, no great tragedy. Just a slow retreat inward. You sleep more, you speak less. Your bones ache in the cold and do not loosen in the warmth. The skin across your knuckles is thin, fragile, veined with memory. You know what's coming. You've seen it before, in your mother, your mother-in-law, a neighbour whose name no one remembers. It is not frightening. It is simply time. And time has never been yours. Your husband already passed on a few years ago. Now you're about to follow him. There is no ceremony to this decline. You still rise in the morning, a little slower, a little stiffer, and complete what tasks remain within your shrinking sphere. Folding laundry, heating water, sorting rice grains that no one will thank you for. You still bow when your son enters the room. He tells you not to, gently, but you do it anyway. Habit is harder to kill than the body. He is a good son, dutiful, stern in a way his father was not, but kinder in quieter ways. He brings you tea in the evening when he remembers. He asks if you're warm enough when the wind shifts. He does not speak of your dying, but he moves more slowly when he passes your door, as if listening for a change in breath. His wife is polite. The children are busy. You do not expect more. No one does. You gave your youth to this house, your middle years, your hands, your spine. You raised a son who now provides, who bows at the altar and lights incense for the ancestors, who will one day light incense for you. This is considered success. This is considered fulfillment. There is no more to want, and so there is no space for grief. Grief would be selfish. You own nothing. You never have. The house belongs to your son. The land belongs to someone else. The clothing on your back was a gift from your daughter-in-law, chosen for modesty and durability, not for comfort. The tablet on the family altar does not yet bear your name, and when it does, it will list you as wife of, mother of, and nothing more. Your own name will be reduced to 1 or 2 characters, carved by someone who never knew you as a girl. You remember having a name once, a personal one, spoken softly by your mother when no one else was listening. You remember it being said in joy once or twice, whispered, perhaps, by your husband in the early years before silence became your shared language. Your son used it when he was small, called for you in the night, cried it when he fell. But he learned quickly, as boys do, that men do not call women by name. They call them by title, by role, by position. You faded from his mouth before he lost his first tooth. Your memories are soft around the edges now, blurred by repetition. You remember folding robes in the spring light, scraping ash from the fire pit, pressing your thumb into dough to check its give. But you don't remember what year it was. You don't remember if it mattered. It all happened quietly. It all passed without announcement. There are no documents, no ledger where your thoughts were recorded, no scroll where your name is written in ink that will outlast you. You are not listed as a contributor to your family's fortunes, though you balanced meals through 3 famines and kept the fire going when your husband's hands were too drunk to strike the flint. You are not named in any account of household success. You are not named at all, unless someone asks who used to mend the screens. And no one asks. You are told to rest more. Your daughter-in-law offers to take over the shrine duties. She speaks kindly, but with the brisk tone of someone eager to do things her own way. You let her. You sit in the garden instead, wrapped in a layer of robes that no longer keep out the wind. The children run by, too fast to greet you. One of them bows out of rhythm. You smile at him. He doesn't see it. You think sometimes about the world beyond the walls. You haven't left in years, not properly. The last time you visited the temple was for your husband's funeral, and even then, you had to be helped up the steps. You bowed for so long your legs nearly locked. You kept your head down the entire time, not out of grief, but because looking up would have made you dizzy. There are other women in the village who have died recently. You hear their names spoken once, maybe twice, and then not again. Their belongings are folded away, their rooms repurposed, their faces blurred in memory within weeks. No one considers this cruelty. It is simply how things are. Women live in service and die in transition, from daughter to wife, to mother to shadow. Sometimes at night, when the pain in your legs keeps you from sleeping, you try to summon the sound of your mother's voice, or your husband's in the days when he still spoke gently, or your son's as a child when he clutched your sleeve with sticky fingers and called you his whole world. You cannot remember the pitch, only the shape of the moment, the way it felt to be needed. Your body continues to narrow. You eat less, speak less, sleep more. Your breathing changes. You know it, though no one else has mentioned it yet. They will soon. And when they do, they will begin the preparations quietly, efficiently, without disruption. The robe for the cremation will be brought out of storage, the tablet carved, the incense set aside. Your daughter-in-law will weep politely. Your son will stand stiffly near the altar. The neighbours will bow and offer rehearsed condolences, and then they will return to their own lives. The rice must still be cooked, the floors still swept, the children still bathed. You will be placed beside your husband or near him, depending on what space remains. Your name, your married name, not your own, will be carved on a wooden tablet and set among the others. The priest will say the appropriate words. The family will bow. The house will shift slightly to accommodate your absence. And then it will settle. No stories will be told about you, not because you were unloved, but because your life was ordinary. You did nothing dramatic. You made no demands. You bore no legend. You simply lived, which is to say, you served. Your legacy is the cleanliness of the floors, the quiet in the hallway, the neat stitching in the sleeves of a robe no one remembers who mended. There is a breeze coming through the paper door now. It smells like green tea and ash. The candle flickers. You close your eyes. You take one last breath. It is silent. The room does not pause. You were a daughter. Before you had a name worth remembering, you were expected to bow, to serve, to absorb the rules of a house that was never yours. Your silence was rewarded. Your curiosity punished. You were not raised to ask who you were. You were raised to ensure others never had to ask where you belonged. From the beginning, your value came from your obedience, from your stillness, from your ability to endure invisibly. You became a wife, not by choice and not with fanfare, but as part of a transaction that determined your fate with the same casualness as rice being weighed. You were told to be grateful. You learned to weep correctly. You bent yourself to fit another household's expectations. You bore what was asked of you, gave more than was taken, and were never permitted to say what you had lost in the process. You became a mother, and in that role, your body ceased to be yours entirely. You were not cherished for the life you brought into the world, only measured by whether it was the right kind. strong, male, quiet, obedient, like his father. You held him when no one else had time. You taught him to walk, to speak, to turn away from you the moment he grew old enough to stop needing your name. That was your duty, to love without being remembered for it. And then you were something less, not a matriarch, not a guide, just a servant in the home you held together with your hands and your silence. Your thoughts were no longer sought, your presence no longer required. You taught your daughter-in-law how to clean the altar. You moved out of rooms before anyone asked you to. You whispered bedtime stories to children who would forget the sound of your voice before they reached adulthood. You were never asked who you might have been. There was no space for that. You were useful, you were obedient, you were quiet, and when your usefulness ended, so did your story. The world has changed now. The banners of the shogunate have fallen. Men write new laws and print their names on papers that will last longer than memory. There are books about revolutions, scrolls about samurai. Temples still echo with the names of ancestors who built things, ruled things, destroyed things. But not you. You are not in those stories. You were not meant to be. You were never the hero, never the villain, never even the witness. You were the backdrop, the floor they walked on, the screen they opened. And now you are gone. There is no monument, no chronicle, no record beyond a name etched small on a wooden tablet, placed at the back of the family shrine, beneath someone else's incense smoke. A breath of wind moves through a paper screen. You were here, and then you weren't. That brings us to the end of tonight's story. Quiet, dutiful, and long since buried beneath layers of tatami and expectation. If you're still awake, thank you for walking the slow, silent path through a life shaped entirely by obedience and erasure. If you'd like early access to more calmly devastating descents into forgotten history, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find a link to the Patreon in the description. Feel free to like, subscribe, or leave a comment with other forgotten corners of history you'd like to see covered. If you're listening on a podcast app, a rating or review helps others find their way to these stories. And special thanks to the supporters who make this show possible, including our chroniclers, Andrew S. and Amanda Lampke. Sleep well.